All right, we're good to go on YouTube as well as to begin with the session, John.
Awesome. So once again, good evening to everyone. Lovely to see all of you here. Uh, it would be great if we have our cameras on. I've probably seen you after a very long time. Welcome to our guests, Sahil and Anju as well. So a quick introduction. Sahil and Anju represent Rishihood University. We are here to discuss the university itself. That's the reason why we've all convened here. So Sahil is the co-founder and CEO of Rishihood University. He's also served as the co-chairman of the National Education Committee at the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and has been a member of the National Committee of Design at the Confederation of Indian Industry as well. And Anju comes with 14 years of experience in the education sector, and she's been in communication and branding, and also working in international education consulting and career counseling too. So welcome to all of you. I'm Thomas. I'm here representing IDC. I believe we have a few counselors joining in here from various locations in the country as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the way we want to run this conversation is we'd like you to ask questions as counselors. I have a few questions to ask the guests as well. If you see that some of your questions don't get answered in the meanwhile, you're more than welcome to raise your hand, put your queries on chat, and we'll take that through. I hope that's good for all. So welcome Sahil and Anju once again. I'd like to start with a question to Sahil. How does Rishihood University's vision and values align with the aspiration to support students from diverse backgrounds? And tell us a little bit about the university and how it came to being.
Thanks, Thomas. So first, I must congratulate this platform, IDC. When I got to know about IDC, I think around 2 months ago, I was so fascinated by the work that you're doing. I think it's extremely important. So I would like to appreciate and congratulate all of you for being associated with this kind of an effort. And we also eagerly look forward to hosting many of you, on our campus in a few weeks from now. Rishihood University's values, vision, and what kind of work are we doing? So we say we are an impact university. So when we say we are an impact university, what does that mean? I think education is something that everyone goes through by default. It's not a hobby. It's something that is part of so many of our lives, and at a very important stage of the life, first 22 years of our life. So what can be the most meaningful use of that phase of life, and can that create an impact for the remaining part of our life? So that's a question that keeps coming to our minds when we design what education should be. So what we did is we used first principles, that what are the outcomes that we want, what are the kind of needs the society has, what's the context, what is today's world, and based on that, what kind of education we should create. That's what we call impact. To simplify, there are three kinds of impacts that we are looking at. First is professional impact. So I think in a large way, education is simply disconnected from what the rest of the professional world is doing, and that is where I think career specialists like you play an immensely important role in helping people fit into the professional world. But this should be the role of educational institutions. So that is the first responsibility that we have taken on us, that whatever we are doing, it has to be 100% in line with the professional world. And I'll later give examples of how we are doing it. Second is personal impact. So if our professional challenges are sorted, we also aspire to be happy, joyful, satisfied individuals at our personal level. And this is emerging as a big challenge, I think, in the new generation, because of overexposure to technology, because of just the society becoming very brittle and anxious. So I think personal sortedness becomes extremely important. That has to be done through emotional support. That has to be done through sports and fitness, through food habits, through sleeping patterns, through mindfulness. So all of that goes into making a robust personal robust individual at a personal level. And third is public impact. So once we are professionally, successful, once we're personally sorted, then we definitely have the desire to do something positive for rest of the people, rest of the society. And we feel this mindset has to be inculcated at a younger age, because then their impact can amplify. Otherwise, typically what happens is when we are retired, when we are 60, 65, then that is when we realize कि मैंने बाकी लोगों के तो कुछ किया नहीं, and that feels like a vacuum. It pains us at that point. So we want to prevent people from getting into the pain. I typically say that we want to save people from a midlife crisis. That should be the responsibility of we as an educational institution. So this is how we look at impact. This is our broad vision and philosophy.
Commendable. So to expand on that, how do you focus on personal growth? What kind of activities do you get students to be involved in terms of co-curriculars apart from the traditional academics at the university?
Okay. So we've designed our curriculum in a very interesting manner. So one is we are a fully residential campus. So what that allows us to do is learning is not limited to academics. So when this question comes that what do we do beyond academics, actually our student is only spending probably 30% of their time in academics, because the rest of the time is outside, in campus and learning through conversations. So what do we do to make best use of that time? One example, I'll give you a few examples. Sports is a compulsory part of the curriculum. We feel fitness is important. Healthy mind resides in a healthy body. So we have a very state-of-the-art sports facility, including all indoor sports, outdoor sports. So what we do is from the first year itself, students pick up 2 sports, and they get credits for that. So they have to really complete a training in those sports in order to progress.
Okay.
Second is community engagement is a compulsory part of the curriculum. So what we have initiated a concept as city as a lab. So lab is not only what is inside our building, like a physics lab, but the whole city is a lab, because when we are solving problems of the people of the society, they are living in the city around us. So what we do, our students, they try to understand the city when they come in, and then they figure out what are the typical or specific problems they would like to solve, and then they start solving those problems. So for example, we found there is a nearby pond, and that pond has been in a deteriorated state for a long time. So we started working with the local community there, sarpanch, this that what role can we play as students to rejuvenate that pond. And now that is leading to kind of an enhanced social life in that area. Our students are doing a health profile of Sonipat, so they're trying to find out what are the kind of diseases that are most common, in which season, what kind of diseases emerge related to their age group, gender, income profile, and then trying to create public health initiatives so that we can prevent those diseases from occurring. So this exposes the students to real life stuff at a very early stage of their education. What it helps the students with, interestingly, is they start finding a purpose to their education. A large challenge in education is that students feel very disconnected कि मैं ये क्यों पढ़ रहा हूँ, and because they don't know the purpose, they are also becoming disinterested. So purpose automatically solves the problem of an interest and intent in learning. And then of course we have music on campus, dance on campus, cultural activities. Interestingly, we have a life and spiritual coach, a full-time mindfulness coach on campus. I think we would be among the very few universities who have this kind of a role. He lives with the students. He has no formal classes. His role is just to talk to people, talk to students, understand them, give them a space where they can open up. And that solves a lot of things, because it's so much, things are inside the minds of the students. They just need someone to talk to, where they can share what is going on inside their head, and that de-stresses them. Yeah, some examples.
Great. So that partially answers my next question as well, as to how do you incorporate real world problems into your curriculum. But to understand a little more, what is your process of research and updating the curriculum regularly, given that's one of the industry demands that we get to hear?
Yeah, very important question. Sometimes universities take it for granted that we are the repository of knowledge and what we say is the truth. That's not the case. I think the world has advanced so rapidly. Not just universities, but overall education system needs to realize that rest of the world has moved on while we have not. I think this realization is not hitting the people yet. So what we do is we don't say that we are doing the research and we are creating this curriculum. We say we are interested in sending the best people to you. What are the people you need? So we go to the industry. We ask them that we are a innovative university. We have these kind of bright students from all across the country. We have a very active learning environment. We have great faculty. All that. Using all of this, what can we build for you as a human resource? And then from there we start working backwards. So it's not a curriculum in alignment with the industry. It's actually a curriculum designed by the industry. So that's step one. But we don't stop there. We say, now that you have told us what needs to be taught, why don't you actually join us in teaching it? So a lot of our classes are actually taught by people who are professionals. So our professors become, kind of co-instructors, co-teachers, joint teachers with them. But in some programs, around 70% of the instruction happens live, in by the industry people. It in some programs it could be half, but it's never insignificant. Majority of the program is directly taught by the industry. So as of now, we have senior programmers or technical directors from places like Meta, Facebook, Meta, and Amazon and Microsoft who are on campus teaching students. Next week, we are launching a program in partnership with KPMG, in which half of the curriculum will be taught by KPMG partners on campus. We've already tied up with several venture funds and startups to teach curriculum in entrepreneurship. So that is how it happens.
So, given that as an organization, iDreamCareer also works with students from very diverse backgrounds, from underserved communities as well, and students from middle to higher income groups too. So keeping that in mind, what kind of initiatives has the university and policies that the university has put in place to ensure an inclusive and diverse and sustainable environment on campus?
Okay, so I'll answer them one by one. So sustainability is in part of our campus design, building sustainability, environment. So because it's a fully residential campus, we have the scope of taking a lot of ownership of the place we are in. So typically the green building principles are what we've already in place. In addition to this, what we do is we already started organic farming on campus. So there is a farm, vegetables grow there. We bring them into our kitchen, so we use them in cooking. We are taking the next step of having students themselves, become farmers on campus like a hobby. So just like there is, let's say, a coding club, why can't there be a farming club, of the students? And when that happens, they automatically get connected to the nature. So once that connection happens, then we don't have to teach sustainability. It comes from within. Because they've seen the struggle of growing a cucumber for 3 months. So that when that hits, just the effort that goes into growing a cucumber, they become more conscious, towards sustainability. So that's our approach.
I hope we get to see some of this when we visit the campus on 6th.
You will. I don't know what's the seasonal vegetable that time. Yeah, but these green vegetables generally are around. If you have time, we'll also make you farm.
Looking forward.
And on diversity and inclusion, so we as a university are quite liberal on and proactive on finding students from tier 2, tier 3 places, supporting them through scholarships, through financial aid. I think at least, I don't know, you can correct me, but I think at least 50% of our students would be on some kind of scholarship. And this is help that we would request from IDC. Please identify that hidden talent from remotest parts of the country. If the student is bright, we will go all out in finding resources to support their studies. Especially people, females, for example. We are concerned that how can we get more females to apply to our programs? So please help us in those things. Going to remote areas, finding female students. We need your help.
I guess in now the campus has students from approximately 26, 27 states from the country. We have international students on campus, and they vary from vast societal background. So
Mhm.
while we have, you will be able to see maybe two students who are sharing the room. One might be from a very privileged background in the sense of, the sort of resources that the child has had access to across his schooling life. And the other one would probably be an orphan who's been raised at a community, schooling center. So they do share their experiences and they do come together. And I think that way we're very focused that whether it's through financial aid or scholarships or even reaching out to those sort of students, that's been always the primary focus in terms of diversity.
So are there any cross-cultural programs or any exchange programs as well for students?
You mean internationally?
Yeah, either ways.
So we have a lot of domestic, immersion also. So students go to, there's study immersions in rural areas, urban areas, industry visits. That happens. Students from other places also keep coming to campus, and variety of students. It's not just that students are coming from mainstream universities. Students are coming from school age groups. Se lekar ke students are, so for example, we're hosting your group. So that also brings in a different flavor and a different energy, different conversation to the campus. We have hosted mindfulness retreats. We have hosted sports retreats. So all that creates a cross culture. On international immersion, we have study treks. So after every semester, we have a destination where students have an optional visit. So last time we did in Singapore. Next we'll be doing in Dubai. Like that we keep visiting different places. Then we also keep having guests from other countries to come here. So recently we had a professor from Switzerland. So he was sharing the whole, about European culture, Swiss culture in particular, and how he has developed an interest about India and how he sees, Indian students contributing. So an outcome of that was that students from his university in Switzerland and students of our university here, they're collaborating on a project where we will help them launch a Swiss brand in India, and they will help us launch an Indian brand in Switzerland. So that takes cultural exchange to a more executional, it becomes tangible. That till now it was a concept, but how can we really make it happen on ground? So those are the kind of activities we do, and our the board of founders of Rishihood is also from different places, of course, within India and from 4 different countries. So that helps in bringing a lot of those international ideas onto the table.
Okay. So I think Radhika has a question in terms of inclusivity. Are there any considerations made for students with special needs?
We want to do more on this. What we have been able to do till now is uh, support in terms of physical disabilities, particularly on the handicap. So the entire campus is wheelchair, friendly, designed as a wheelchair friendly campus. What sensitized us to this is there is a backstory. So one of our founders, he is a big educationist. He runs a chain of play schools called Bachpan Play Schools. Some of you might have heard of them. There are 1,000 play schools across the country. So he happens to be infected with polio from his childhood. So he's on wheelchair. So when we were designing the university initially, it was just for his own office. We're thinking we'll make it wheelchair friendly. Then we were sensitized towards just the challenges that people with disabilities face, and then we decided every part of the university will be accessible. So our rooms in the hostel, ramps everywhere, so sports complex, so all these things. But we want to do more. So we have not been able to do, let's say, for autism or for some other needs. We definitely would like to do more of that.
Sure. So I hope, Radhika, that answered your question. If it didn't, you're welcome to unmute and ask.
She's asked any earmarked seats for PWD. So as a university, we don't have a problem of seats. As a private university, if there is a student, we have to adjust. Especially, we would love to do that.
Great. So Bhavna has a question. Bhavna, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. So, good evening, Sahil. The question is that you have a policy boot camp that you conduct in your institution. So, is there any minimum qualification age criteria for that? For example, I have a very smart student who is in 11th grade. So, is it open to school students also, or is there any minimum age or qualification criteria?
It's a good question. So it is for college and above. That's the rule. We have had around 1,000 students over different editions till now. Only once we broke this rule. There was a class 12 student from Doon School. But from the interview, we realized that the student is well exposed to public issues and he's ready to participate in that kind of an environment. So based on the student, we'll be happy to make that exception. But it is quite rare that students, because we also want them to make use of that opportunity. It should not be just it's not a GK
Yeah, absolutely.
so but if you suggest a student, you know the student, then we'll be very happy to talk and understand.
Yeah, I'll ask the student to basically connect to the admission team or the contact person.
Sure.
And the second question is that, do you have any events like open house, where you can showcase your university to the students and their parents? Because a lot of universities conduct their open houses, probably once a month or fortnightly during the admission season, so that students can come and visit your university and see the programs firsthand, and parents also.
Anju, you can share some of those things.
Yes, Bhavna. So we do have open houses that we conduct both virtually as well and on campus also. Campus visits, to be honest, like by parents as such, we do plan with them, the ones who are already in touch. And even in case if they need to be, have a particular day that they want to come in, they can do that. But open houses, virtual open houses, these are a very common feature. So once connected, we can always plan out. And if there's something customized, because what we've seen is with a couple of our partners and counselors that we have, they do also get together, say 5 or 6 of their parents who are interested, and we could curate that. That's not a problem. Once the parents and students are on campus, there is a curated program for them. So it's not just from a perspective of understanding the courses or visiting the campus as such, but even if there is a learning program that can be done, for a certain sizable number of students, we could curate that as well. That should not be a problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also have a summer school in the last week of May, which is for students typically in class 9th to 12th.
Shipra ma'am has a question. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Sahil. Two queries. One scrolled up, so I'll repeat that. You mentioned international trek that you have for your students. So there, are the EWS candidates who are sponsored on scholarship, are they sponsored as well for that?
We do that. So this time we had around a 25% sponsorship on the total budget of the trip. So depending on the cost of the trip, the demand from the students, we do that.
Second question, vis-a-vis the NEP guidelines, now that the schools are also supposed to integrate internships for their students, and even for the students who may be looking at profile building and all. So is there any kind of intervention where the university may have any kind of intervention for schools? You did mention the summer school. By that time, my question had already formulated in my head. So partly probably it gets connected there. But with regard to the internships for, say, grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, is there any intervention like that?
Yeah. So we have done some internships before. Right now also an internship is going on in psychology for students in class 11th and 12th. When we start going below that age group, internship becomes ineffective for them also, for us also, because they're not at that level yet to produce something. It's a learning for them, but it's not an outcome. So rather than calling it an internship, we can do some projects. We also do hackathons where in a quick time they can create something. We also work with schools on long-term programs. So there are some schools, residential schools in Mumbai, in Delhi, where we create a whole year-long curriculum with them on topics like leadership and impact. So it's not an internship per se, but it effectively, through a lot of projects, they're able to create an outcome. So it helps them in building their profile. It gives them superlative exposure. So we'll be happy to work with schools if any of you represent schools who are interested in this.
Thank you so much.
Radhika, please go ahead.
Hi, Sahil. So how old is the university?
We are in our third year now.
Third year. So I was just going through your cohort page. So I saw it is BA Honors Psychology, whereas it is mentioned that BSc Psychology. Is it BA Honors or is it BSc?
So it's BSc honors. So we are making a shift, in our curriculum towards more of science. So this shift is recent because of, again, understanding from the industry. So when I was saying, we constantly try to upgrade ourselves to what is happening in the world. So for students who are entering 2024 onwards, it will be a BSc honors program.
So is it going to be the same prerequisites for the student from whichever background?
Yes, same prerequisites.
Yeah. So another thing is summer internship. With respect to that, in global health for NEET qualified students, which I think happened last year. So which is for the duration of 30 days with stipend of 10,000. So how was the response for that?
So students' enthusiasm was good, but like I said, meaningful outcome is difficult, at that age, because 1 month we took just to orient them to what it means to be working, because till then they have been studying. So in that way, it was a good outcome that they went back and with a good understanding on what does it mean to be a professional, but nothing beyond that, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And another one was, which I really liked, robotics in ancient India. It's a 6 months course. So what exactly it is going to,
So online course. So there is a lot of what do I say? So we have a Center for Human Sciences in which we do a lot of research on Sanskrit and the literature that is available in Sanskrit. So in that there are some principles which kind of form the basis of, let's say, computation or mathematics or automation. So we were trying to identify them and making them understandable for more and more people in today's world.
Interesting. Thank you.
Shweta, would you like to go next?
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't notice Shipra ma'am there.
yeah. So, okay. So I have a very small question. Sahil, you mentioned while you were talking about the BA, BSc shift in psychology that you are, because you have got that kind of a feedback from the industry, you're moving towards sciences. Could you elaborate on that, and what are the insights that you're working on?
So what is happening is now we are moving to call it a brain machine teaming. So there is till now these two things were distinct. There is technology outside me, and then this is me. Things are merging. When that happens, psychology is not limited to behavior therapies or social psychology or understanding the mind of the other from outside. There is a lot of science and tech going inside, where now we have data, we have the tools to measure, we have the tools to analyze. So we have created a lab called Human Augmentation Lab, which is a combination of understanding the brain through EEGs. We have invested in AR/VR gears to track eye movements, to put people in simulation environments, and we have those how do I say, questionnaires or tests on which people are responding. So we know how they are deciding. Now using this, industry is kind of miles ahead in how psychology can lead to decision making, to sales. So there is a whole concept of neuromarketing. So when we go to companies and we say, how can a psychologist help you, they say, can they help us in neuromarketing? So for that, they have to understand neuroscience and cognitive science. How do our brains actually make a decision? When we go to companies, they say that these students need to know stats and data, but these are typically understood as PCM fields. A psychology, a liberal arts student is not expected to understand Excel sheets and R and basics of coding and basics of gamification. So that is where we want to make this shift, that technology is now something that is permeating science and tech. It has become like communication. We can't say कि engineering को communication की जरूरत नहीं है, they can just code while rest of the people need communication. It's nothing like that. The lines are now blurred. A psychology student also needs to be extremely comfortable with numbers, with analytics, with science and technology.
And
so that
is it
shift will
happening
be
in the,
relaxed.
sorry, is it happening in the other fields also, like other than psychology as well?
So with us, other fields were already very technology native. So there's a BTech program which is completely designed in partnership with industry. So that's a tech native design by its, the nature of the course itself is, quite linked to technology. And the fourth program we have is in business and entrepreneurship. So
That's also
that also has a high interface with technology. So it only psychology had this, positioning of a liberal arts kind of a field. It is changing very rapidly. And the team that we have, it consists of, it is led by a neuroscientist from DRDO. So his role was to work on the cognitive abilities for the armed forces. For 30 years, he was a scientist at DRDO. So now he's the dean of our school. So we are using all those learnings to create the curriculum of the future.
Second question is about the summer camp, and a lot of people are already asking you for details. So I think give it away.
Yeah. So Anju, you can.
I'll take that. So the summer school, the versions we started about 2 years back. And the idea is obviously to give students an entire experience of how life is in a university, not just from a perspective of how the pedagogical teaching happens across various areas, but also in terms of, basics like how do you set your cupboard? How do you share space with someone else who's from a totally different background? So this is a 7-day residential camp, the one that is happening in May. We have it between 25th to the 31st of May. It's predominantly open for high school students. So any student between grades 9 to grade 12, or even the ones who've just graduated this year, they're also welcome to apply to it. I think we close applications by end of April. So there is a certain round of interviews that we do. Again, interviews are not from the perspective of rejecting them, but just to try and understand what is the deal. And this year, of course, we also have the pleasure of hosting Aggarwal as the chief guest for the summer program. A lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of technology. So students across these 7 days are exposed to diverse disciplines. So they are doing workshops in design. They're going to do workshops in psychology as well, tech, theater, multiple things. And apart from that, other activities, whether it's sports, whether it's, rural immersion and likewise. And at the end of it, I think they have a better understanding of which particular way to go for. And we also get a sense of understanding as to whether that student aligns with us for a futuristic sort of a process. So that happens between 25th to 31st. This year, what we're also envisioning is that for a lot of students, because our core areas of impact in terms of our courses also that we run are into tech, which is CS and AI, we have entrepreneurship, we have design, and we have psychology. So we're also creating 3 to 4 day individual boot camps right after the summer, summer courses as such. So say 25th to 31st, students go ahead for the summer program. And from there onwards, if there is someone who wants to specifically immerse in a 3 to 4 day boot camp in psychology, then they do that separately. If they want to do something in design specifically, they can do that, or business entrepreneurship or likewise. So that's also something that we are adding on this year as such. And there's an online application that they have to fill in. So we do expect them to fill an online application, pen down a short statement of purpose as to why they're looking to be part of the school as well. And once the interview process is done, then we onboard them onto the cohort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shipra ma'am, would you like to unmute yourself?
Thank you. Thank you. Sahil, my question to you again. I have two queries. One is with regard to, since I learned from you that the entire concept of university was based on design thinking approach. And I really am very appreciative of it. Thank you for that. Now, your B design program, what kind of interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary this thing is being offered in B design? Point one. Point two, are we leveraging B design as a department for other psychology and BBA and BTech interventions? Because that forms the crux of any giving meaning to anything that we do. So yes, so is design thinking a crux and a crucible of ideas for other departments as well? And a third very obvious question that comes to any professional university is placement. Though you're just 3 years old, so I believe you're yet to come out in the market on that. So maybe what is the preparation on that ground?
Very, very interesting questions. Very deep questions. So I like that you're asking this. So the way Rishihood curriculum is designed is there are levels to it. So when the students enter, they undergo something called the Rishihood Foundation, which is common to all students, irrespective of their major. And this includes courses like understanding India, understanding what are the global challenges, understanding technology's impact on society, understanding the self. So they set the macro context, the perspective, so that the student knows the operating environment. Right? We all are living in an operating environment. The issue, typically in education is we straight away put the student into their domain knowledge without setting the context. So the foundation helps in setting the context. So a lot of design thinking and systems thinking happens in that foundational layer for all students. In fact, it is today's discussion. We are revising, upgrading our foundation curriculum for the incoming year. So design eye opener will be a core course for all the students, as part of the foundation, from this August. So I mean, rapid, we are doing a rapid prototyping, on curriculum. So if we do this discussion in 6 months, probably I'll, have some different answers. Second, you asked was linking of the B design students as an interdisciplinary thing for more. So once the students have gone through this foundation, they start getting into, their own specializations. But towards the later years, especially the 3rd and 4th years, there is a lot of space for them to explore through electives. And because we are a fully residential campus, because most of the faculty also study here, there's a lot of ease in students getting and actually receiving those electives. So students of design, I've typically seen them being very excited about technology, about entrepreneurship. In fact, I've seen students of design building and launching their startups while they are students. This happens because they are able to take training from our entrepreneurship program, and vice versa. Students of psychology are studying neuromarketing, which is offered by a professor from a different department. So a lot of this thing happens. And your third question was on
Placement preparation.
placements. Wow. So this is my one of my favorite things to solve in education. अभी क्या होता है, universities, they wake up, universities and students, they both wake up in their 8th semester that we'll be leaving soon, and what do we do now? So we realized कि ऐसे तो नहीं हो पाएगा. If thousands of students are waking up in the last semester and then asking questions to the university, and vice versa, the university is also asking those questions to the students that you don't know this, how will you get placed? Think this is a problem that can be prevented and preempted at a much early stage. So what we have done is we have created something like a parallel curriculum. We officially call it the parallel curriculum, which runs along with their core curriculum. So core curriculum is all the subjects, right? If I'm a design student, I'll be learning, let's say, carpentry, then I'll be learning computer-aided design, I'll be learning graphic design, etc., etc. Parallel to this is our parallel curriculum, which will be how to talk in a group, how to build a LinkedIn profile, how to share a CV, how to network in a conference. So these things are habits which are important in the professional world, but because they are not formally told to the students, they only get to learn them once they've entered. So
soft skill training and corporate readiness.
Yeah. Correct. So professional readiness, can that become a culture? So what we have done is this whole parallel curriculum. So this parallel curriculum also starts from semester 1. And at the end of each semester, we are telling the student that all of these things happened. This is where you are, and this is where you need to improve if you want to ensure that your exit will be great. So the kind of programs we have, we don't feel placement will be a challenge. The courses are such and the curriculum is such that people will get placed, but we don't want them to just get placed. We want them to fly in their careers. So that will happen when industry readiness starts from day 1.
And I think just to add on to that, specifically, since you'd asked for design, when I'm looking at students who are graduating this year in 24, if you look at the sort of internships that they're doing, they've already secured internships with 25,000 as a stipend. And these are undergrad kids who are in their 4th year. and they're doing brilliantly well in terms of the work that they're putting into the corporate. Also, the ones who've already started their businesses. So half the time, even for us internally, Sahil and I have sourced so many, gift items and everything from the students. Saying, "Aapka business hai, you let me know what is the business like, and then we can." Okay, so I don't think placements is the issue. Also, a discussion that all of us keep internally having, that how do we change this narrative of institutions becoming placement agencies, because that's not the outcome that an institution should be also focusing on. So that's where the readiness in terms of how you can be more self-dependent, whether you're working in an organization or you're starting something of your own. I think that's the focus for the entire curriculum bit as well.
Actually, the issue with the whole placement mindset is that we are never prepared for the future. We only look at the JD and how do I fit into that JD, which will be, and why people typically like to do that is my job is done. My student has got placed. Now I don't worry what they will do for rest of their life. But we are not a university we don't want to be a university like that. We want to ensure that our alumni have success. I'll tell you an interesting feature of Rishihood. So we are a university founded by multiple people from all across the country, all across the world, from very different kinds of fields. They're entrepreneurs, they're technocrats, they're cabinet ministers, they're spiritual leaders, social leaders. They're there because they represent a certain vision of impact. But we all know that eventually people will age and they will pass away. So who will run the university in the future? We want that by 2050, 100% of the university should be governed by our alumni. So it is our responsibility to create that kind of alumni that I go to them and say that please now join the board of Rishihood. So it's a very long-term kind of a commitment. It's not, we don't want to wash off our hands on the day of the placements.
Absolutely agree there, Sahil. It's just that, yes, for some parents, ROI does make an important decision-making criteria and a necessity. So we can't even completely close our eyes to the needs of placement also. That's why I asked. You're right, entrepreneurs and
I totally agree with you. That's why I'm saying that it has to start early and it has to continue for long. It can't be just a transaction that happens in the 8th semester.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Thank you for that.
One thing that facilitates this is all our programs have 6-month paid internship. So it's not a 2-month summer, holiday where people say they're doing internship, but practically nothing is happening. So again, a feedback from the industry. When we went to the industry, we said, we have some students, they want to take internships. They said, I don't want students for 2 months. We changed our curriculum so that we could create a space for whole 6 months. So that one entire semester is an internship. And now, the industry loves it because they have the time to groom and make use of that person. And it is a sufficient time to understand what does it mean to be working in, a real professional environment.
Yeah, I did have quite an idea about Rishihood through Hemant Sharma also. So I've been knowing Rishihood for a while, but it was a great learning and great insight right now. Thank you so much.
So moving on to Satish ji, please go ahead.
Sir. Good evening, sir. Sahil ji and all. Since I'm from engineering background, just because I have seen all this, the practical experience for what are the students which are there, because in every case, the practical hands-on. So are there any facilities built within the campus? Suppose I'm a mechanical engineer or some civil electrical and cross-functional teams. Suppose they want to go for a project. As you told that many projects were assigning, including sustainability and all that. In sustainability, there also comes rainwater harvesting within the campus, how the rainwater harvesting works, rooftop application, solar application, ground mounted application. So such type of practical hands-on experience, are there any facilities built in your campus so that they can understand not only theoretical, because entrepreneurship there is a business management, but there should be some hands-on experience. So if it is feasible in this campus.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, most of it is hands-on, the way we teach. So I was giving you this example of human augmentation lab where we have AR, VR facilities, we have EEG, for brain scanning, we have gamification software. So these are not facilities for our staff. I mean, they are open to the students. if you when you come here, you will see that you will walk into the corridor, 9 in the night, 10 in the night. You will see students actually working in those labs, using facilities like a 3D printer, what do we call it? A furnace, a lathe machine, multiple things, robotics, motherboards, etc. We constantly enhance, keep enhancing our facility. So we are building a large maker space, which will have a lot of these physical, production facilities like CNC, and wood workshops and all that. We also keep inviting people from outside to give these hands-on trainings. So this weekend we had a drone workshop. So students actually built and flew drones. You were using it for parcel delivery from one location of the campus to the other location. So there were around 50 students who participated in and built these drones. So these kind of things are we actively keep doing them. So one of the outcomes, an example of that is there is a competition called ICPP. It's world's biggest coding competition. Typically IIT third, fourth year students, are participating and reaching a regional level in that competition. Our first semester students reached there, just because the curriculum was so practical and linked to what is happening, in the industry.
Okay. So the faculties, because they want to have that much expert faculty. So I think for such expertise to build, there is no any problem or issue with the faculties. They will be well selected and they are competitive. So that can be there.
I don't want to boast, but if I tell where all our team comes from, so most of the IITs, IIMs, Yale University, Florida University, King's College, it's a DRDO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Even corporate. So we have a high proportion of people coming from companies, PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, Wipro, SAP, because that is how we bring in corporate exposure into the campus.
Great. Thank you.
So moving on to Sandhya, you may go ahead, Sandhya.
Yeah, first of all, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sahil. I have a very important question, like what is the criteria for the scholarship? Is it need-based or is it merit-based?
It's both. So scholarships are typically based on merit. If the student also expresses and demonstrates a financial need, then we provide an additional financial aid.
Okay. So
And
what is
all of
Yeah,
the
please.
students are actually evaluated at the time of application. So there is no separate merit scholarship application that a child has to make. We typically are looking at 5 areas. So for the 24 intake, for example, we started our application somewhere in September last year. And we conduct our admission cycles across four rounds. So we are done with our early decision. We're done with our first round. We're on to our second round of applications right now that closes on the 15th of April. And we're looking at 5 parameters. So we look at the students' past academic records, predominantly grade 10, 11 scores. If they have predicted scores for grade 12, then fantastic, that's good. Or even droppers, then in that case, naturally, they're grade 12 as well. Their extracurricular achievements. And we've always stressed that extracurricular achievements doesn't necessarily only have to be something which is certified or something, they've done a particular problem. Even let's say if there are students that we see who are engaged in activities like maybe book discussions, or they've attended conferences and they're able to gather, some knowledge from that and be able to talk about it, I think they can mention those experiences as well. So that takes a certain weightage. The online application has a built-in statement of purpose segment, which again asks them to answer 3 questions. So one is an essay prompt where they have 2 options and 2 other questions that they need to answer. So that SOP segment alone has a 30% weightage into their selection, overall selection as such. And once the online application is submitted within the deadline, we conduct an aptitude test of our own. In the case of students who are applying for the Bachelor's in Design program, they have an additional test. So it's either the RSAT for all of the other kids, or they have an RSAT plus DAT, plus the design aptitude test bit as well that they have to give through, and a personal interview, which is done online. So basis on the performance across all of these 5 parameters, the total composite decides A, whether they're shortlisted or not, and if they get a higher composite, what is the sort of merit scholarship that they fall in. We've also categorized our merit scholarships into various buckets. So, for example, there's one bucket for Bharat Ki Beti, which is typically for students who are women candidates who come in. There's something for sports. There is something for, young entrepreneurs as well. If there are kids in 11th and 12th who've already started their businesses while being in 12th, we'd like to sort of award that. So those activities are also taken into consideration while we decide for the scholarship part. And like Sahil mentioned, over and above that, if, at the time of results, we do give them, so let's say if a student is shortlisted and gets a scholarship, that intimation goes to them at the same time. But over and above that, if someone requires a financial aid as well, then they can write to us, and on a case-to-case basis, we do evaluate them. That can be given to them for sure.
Okay. So glad to hear that you have such a comprehensive way of selecting students. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think Radhika's question is, once the scholarship is granted, will it be for the entire course? So it's given on a per annum basis. The students are required to maintain a certain minimum GPA for them to continue with that scholarship at the end of the year. But it's not a very stringent criteria as of now. The idea is to keep the motivation on for them to also, continue doing the good work that they're doing. But yes, technically in that sense, it becomes a 4-year this thing. And I believe someone had a question on the cost of attendance as well. So for the bachelor's in design and the BSc honors in psychology, we charge 5 lakhs a year, 5 lakhs per annum, which is inclusive of the hostel accommodation and everything. So the breakup would be 3.2 lakhs per annum is the tuition fee, and 1.8 lakhs per annum is their residential fee and everything else. So the scholarships that we give them, the merit scholarships, are given on the tuition fee component. You look at the business and entrepreneurship program, that's priced at 6 lakhs per year. So 4.2 lakhs is the tuition fee and 1.8 as the accommodation and everything else. And the tech program is around 5,25,500 overall per year, particularly. So all of the scholarships as on date are given on the tuition score as such. But there are some EWS organizations, foundation-based students who do work with us as well. We're very closely associated with 1 or 2 foundations that we look through with their students. So if there is a requirement for a financial aid in terms of any other facility as well, we could look at that.
So I think most of the questions that I had planned got asked and answered in some format or the other. So I just have one left, which is who is the ideal student for Rishihood?
Sahil, you want to go for that or I'll go for that? Who is the ideal student for Rishihood?
Ideal student. Abhi aap batao, Anju. You are talking more.
I think so there are 3 qualities that we are looking at for when we evaluate students. And I think all of the interview questions, the parameters that we look at are based on these 3 qualities. Number 1 is how curious is the student? Because curiosity is paramount for a child to have the maturity to even enjoy the curriculum that we have. If you don't have that curiosity and someone comes to me and says, this is the program and I don't want to, I don't want to be explorative, then I don't know whether the child will actually excel in the program or not. So curiosity is absolutely important.
Just
Secondly,
add to that,
yes.
When the student comes to us, we are more interested in the questions they are asking rather than the answers they're giving.
Yeah, that is very true. And if you are curious, then you also need to have the courage to go ahead and see through that curiosity. It's like, I want to go and keep my foot in ice cold water in Ladakh somewhere, but I have to have the courage to do that. So are you demonstrating that? Do you have the risk-taking appetite? Do you have the sort of zeal to follow through what you're curious about? I think that's one part. And thirdly, we keep thinking about Rishihood as the term as well, that, we want people to go ahead and achieve their highest potential. So they should have a component of joy. How are you enjoying even the smallest of things when you're doing, whether it's, it might be feeding an animal that you've gone through the last 4 or 5 years. So what is that particular aspect as well? So I think these are 3 main qualities that we're looking at. And if the kid has these 3, we're most welcome to have the kid from whichever genre, whichever background. Communication is not a bar. And I'd like to stress that, because a lot of times counselors come and tell us that, my child does not have very strong communication skills. So will he be able to go through? But I think if the main components are there, communication is something that we can help him build, him or her build. That's not a problem.
If the child is curious,
yes,
we'll be able to teach communication. That's not a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll pause for any other questions from the audience. If there are any other, I don't see any.
I must
more than
appreciate.
that.
I mean, these are some of the most thoughtful questions that I've ever had from
Yeah.
counsel.
Glad to hear that, Sahil. I think you'll get more. Ma'am,
Yes, yes, we're very happy to have more.
Yeah, it's actually our collective responsibility to push education for the better. If we ask simple questions, then no one will be forced to push.
so ma'am, please go ahead.
One small query. I don't know if I missed out that part while you were answering to Shweta's question. The BSc transition of psychology program, does it have very specific eligibility criteria, or is it open to all domains?
It's open to all domains. It's open to all domains. There's no particular eligibility with respect to a science background student or likewise. Because the foundation part anyway takes care of any particular lag that they'll require to sort of cover up. Thank you.
Also, I would want to ask my last question. So psychology with computer science, like as in two majors, is that possible?
Psychology with
computer
Yes,
science.
computer science.
Computer
we can
science.
have computer science as a minor. That's a possibility in the third year and the fourth year. So if you look at all of the curriculums across 4 years, it's a heavy 160 credit program. So we would require the student to sort of give in that attention towards their specialization areas as well. And the idea about introducing the minor specializations is to help them, bolster the outcome of their curriculum. It's not from a perspective that, you do this as well and you put your foot on the other side as well. But if I'm a design candidate and if I'm communication design, if I'm focusing on that, then I know that a couple of subjects from tech will help me within that space, or a couple of subjects from psychology will help that. So those combinations are possible in the third and the fourth year.
Yeah. So major plus minor is possible for all our
Yes.
programs. Double major becomes a challenge because we prioritize a 6-month internship. And when that happens, it removes the space for those courses. But if a student is very particular that they want to have that, then we'll create a space for that. Our suggestion to the student is that rather than majoring in two, you major in one, minor in two, minor in the second, and take industry exposure.
Yeah, and I think, like Sahil said, so for example, if you're looking at someone who's doing a business and entrepreneurship program, now if I'm looking at that curriculum, there are multiple things that we do for the kids. We believe that the entire conversation around money is not very comfortable in Indian middle class families. Maybe in family business backgrounds where the kid is, growing up in that sort of an environment. But in middle class families and most other places, students are not very, even if you're 27, 28, you're still not comfortable with the idea of mutual funds, stock investments, and likewise. So we do train them on that. We open a demat account. We give them a 10,000 rupee balance that, across the next 4 years, we'll teach you how to grow money, but you have to do that. Similarly, we are giving them a 1 lakh rupee deposit in the first year as an FD. Give it to them in the third year at the end of 3 years. That take the money, start something, prototype, build something, build a product, build a service. So when they're doing all of that, in that context, also a double major becomes very hectic for them to, sort of go ahead and navigate. So as additional as possible, I think that'll be great for them.
Yeah. So Anju, when it comes.
Radhika, I think we've lost you. I can't. Is it only me?
I think she kind of
Okay.
dropped out. So in the meanwhile, if anyone else has questions, we'll be happy to take them on. I don't see any questions on chat here.
So I have a question.
Sure.
For IDC, what would you expect from university? So we are a blank slate. We are here to solve problems. What is the problem you think we can solve that you are facing?
So I'd love to have my counselors answer that question. Even if you have a point to put in on chat. Richa, please go ahead.
Thank you, Thomas. So Sahil, basically we are working with children who are from little maybe we can say economically weaker section most of the time. And they can't afford the fee without scholarship. So that is the population we are dealing with. And those while talking to you and while listening to you, I had many students in my mind who are basically from a poor background. So how will you be able to facilitate them and help them with admission and scholarships?
Sure. Please share their profiles. We'll find the donors.
Yeah, we're also trying to see if, I mean, and this is, it feeds into the entire social impact focus that we have at the university as well. So we are also internally thinking of ways in which we could create a common fund for students from any economically weaker section of the society, and not just at the time of admissions, even during the program. For smaller things like resources and likewise that they could sort of come back to it. So in case if you have profiles, we'd love to evaluate them. And then maybe, basis where they stand in and how they can gel in with the program, we can take a call for sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
In
Thank you.
extension to Richard's question, we've also seen that when we send students to certain types of private universities, especially students that Richard mentioned, they sometimes find it challenging to cope up. They might be academically really bright. However, like the things that you mentioned, they might find a little overwhelming. Given that they are mixed in a mix of audiences or groups that they probably haven't interacted with before. So while communication, I'm happy to hear that communication is not a criteria to get in. It does become a sense of a class in itself when there are certain groups who can communicate in certain ways and certain groups that can't. Are there ways that you can help students from EWS backgrounds bridge into the program a little better, at least in the early months? But both from the curriculum and from the personal side.
So it's a important observation. So there are two things. One is we provide extra workshops or an extra mentoring for students who are lagging in some certain areas like communication, probably mathematical skills, so that they can pace up to the rest of the batch. Second, as a culture, Rishihood culture is very grounded culture. So there is no elitism. So you will not find people having this, fear. It's just natural to the campus environment at Rishihood, the way we've grown. There is no kind of a class divide because everyone is eating from the same place. Everyone is living together. The classes are together. Even from me to the security guard, we all eat in the same mess. So we have hardly faced a challenge of elitism here.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, also, some of the initiatives like we mentioned the full-time life and mindfulness coach also on campus. So when Paroksh Dada is also, talking to students, the idea is that, okay, fine, if you have a certain issue, if you think that you're not able to, work out with your peers, so how do you manage relationships? And relationships cannot just be, romantic ones, peer group ones, how do you manage relationships with people that you're supposed to work with? So I think that sort of an individualized attention is a part and parcel of the university. And as a community, even, if you look at the people who are working at Rishihood, not just the students are very diverse, but our workforce is also very diverse. All of us come from different parts of the country who've, left different sort of profiles to come together because we want to build it in that way. So there is a common connect somewhere or the other, whether it's language, whether it is, we're in Sonipat, but half the time you'll listen to so much Telugu and Tamil that you will get confused whether you're in Sonipat or somewhere down south. So all of that part happens, and I think it's never been an issue that we faced in terms of that.
Great. So I don't think there are much more questions after this. Though, if there are more questions, I would love to relay them to you as and when they come, maybe even after the session too. And of course, we probably will have some more questions when we actually meet you in person.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. We all will see you at the Rishihood University campus on the 6th. And I think there are, I guess, almost all the counselors who are supposed to be attending on those 2 days were here. So thank you to all the counselors who come in. Really good questions. And I'm sure that some of you are going back with some more questions from here as well and not probably got your questions answered completely. So I wish you could share that with us, and maybe when we meet in person, we'll probably have more questions to ask you. And a little more to tell as well. So thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for your time, Sahil and Anju. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone, looking forward to hosting.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone. And
Thank you.
really looking forward to having you on campus.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much for the wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.